go back and try.
And welcome. How are you today, Jack?
Yeah, I'm good, Lisa. How are you?
Yeah, really well. And welcome to everyone that's listening in. We're a day late, but we're bringing it to you. Today, we'll be speaking about gut health and digestion, which is so topical and probably the most popular one thus far in regards to inquiries. So it's definitely on your mind. And I will say I'm super excited to talk to you today, Jack, because I have been watching a Netflix series about being superhuman, and it keeps talking about the gut biome and how important it is, how it can turn genes on and off, how it's to do with our epigenetics, how we give birth and what kind of biomes there, whether we eat dirt as a kid, where we live. There are so many different things. And ultimately, we need to be supporting our gut health because that
Absolutely.
has so many different effects. So perhaps we could start with, why is gut health important? Because no one
Wow.
else is watching the Netflix series, right?
What was the series called?
I think it's something becoming superhuman or being something superhuman. I'm sure if you type in superhuman into the search, it's going to,
Sounds great.
yeah.
Well,
So
I think you
gut
covered
health.
it there. I think you covered it. It's like, the gut health is so important for, as science is now showing, for our brain chemistry, for our moods, for our ability to think well as obviously fueling the body and creating good quality tissues and the healthy function of all of our organs. All comes back to our gut. And, for thousands of years, Ayurveda's been supporting or saying that, health comes from good digestion and poor health comes from poor digestion. Now, of course, there's many factors that influence our digestion, and stress is one of them. The pollutants in our environment can be one of them. But, it's so important that we put in good quality food and that we're in the rest and digest mode. So we are in a state that is able to digest, that we're not eating on the run, that we're not stressed when we're eating or emotional. So, all of these things help our gut, which helps our overall well-being.
I remember, so thinking about Ayurvedic is such an ancient medicine, right? Thousands and thousands of years old. But I'm just thinking back to my grandma. She used to have a saying when you're, a bit stroppy, oh, you've got the shits.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, like if your gut isn't good, it was the wise woman's saying about that connection between the head and your emotions and your gut. And if you're not very happy, then maybe as a kid you need to go to the toilet and just have a good sit and think about it. I don't know, but there was that harking back to the wisdom that's there, and we've got all these different sayings that are now going, yay, we've got the science
And the
for it.
science backs that up now. And
Mm.
I found this really interesting. In some talks I've given about gut health in the past, when I was researching for them, I learned that our gut has, its own brain as well, which is called the enteric brain. And it's got as many synapses or neurons as a cat. And I happen to think, there's like, 40 million or something, whereas where we've got, much, much more. But I happen to think that cats are pretty intelligent. So I'm pretty happy that my gut is as it is intelligent as a cat.
Well, they certainly know how to get what they want, don't they?
Yes, they
And
do.
our gut has so many ways of telling us what it wants. It grumbles, it
Yeah.
tightens, it lets off gases, or reflux, or it's got all these different things that our gut does
And
to
as
let us.
you,
It can give us a headache,
and as you
if we need
said,
more water,
yeah,
dehydration. It just all these different ways of talking to us. So we were discussing before the call, Jake, that there is all these different things, and we're here to talk about ghee, and there is this thing called a Clostridium
Butyricum.
butyric.
Yeah.
So that's a big word.
Yeah. So, I've learned that our gut has, most of us know that there's a microbiome in our gut. It's like the healthy gut flora. And for so many of us, our gut flora perhaps isn't as healthy as it could be. And we've got, hundreds, probably thousands of different bacteria in our guts, and some of them are really good and they help to keep the balance, and some of them are not so good and can create havoc in our guts, and create things like candida, or even parasites growth, or all sorts of things, which then affect our mood, our brain, our immune system. So this Clostridium butyricum is one of the good little happy microbiome gut bugs.
Do you just
And
imagine them?
yeah, just happy.
I'm a
And
happy little bug.
and this happy little bug, one of its main jobs is to create butyric acid. Now, I think your listeners, our listeners might remember that ghee is really high in butyric acid.
It
and
is,
butyric
yeah.
acid is one of the short chain fatty acids that make ghee so good. And so when our gut is naturally healthy, we make our own butyric acid, which is very anti-inflammatory. So it helps to soothe the mucosal lining of the gut, helps to heal leaky gut, helps to keep, everything moving well through the gut. But if our microbiome is not so healthy, and, I think we just need to look at our supermarket shelves or our chemist shelves to see that
Yep.
our society's not doing so well with gut health, like in general, okay?
And in general, just even just stress is destroying it.
That's right.
Like regardless even of what you're putting in your mouth, when you come to, we can only do what we have an awareness of. So this conversation about gut health has only been happening in the last, I don't know how many years, right? That people are starting to really go, I have to take care of it. And I guess that's because it's been telling us that something's wrong, and people such as yourself, and naturopaths and people that are have more expertise in this are starting to tell the population, and we're starting to talk more about it. But until that point, we didn't know. And we used to think that just having a little bit of yoga each day was going to
put the good stuff in.
Was going to put the good stuff in. And in fact, that's not even exactly super true now, as far as how much survives on the supermarket shelf, depending if, I guess, you made your own at home. So we're just walking around we've got awareness now, so we can do something. I guess I just don't want people beating themselves up going, oh my God, I've got a dead gut biome,
I totally agree.
It's just life, you do what you know. And if you're living in the city, you've got all this, car fumes, whatever, everything's affecting it.
Yeah. And I agree.
Hand sanitizer.
We don't want to give ourselves a hard time. We want to, do what we can in the context of our lives, of what's possible, and just be really kind to ourselves. And I mean, I see a lot of people who strive to eat really well and eat, really good quality food and go organic as much as possible, but their gut's still struggling. And it is, as you mentioned, it's stress as well. It's like, and essentially food is not the savior. It's like we could be eating the most amazing organic food and all putting all the good stuff in, but if we're racing around like a chook with the head cut off, and skipping meals and eating at irregular times and all sorts of things, which I get it. It sometimes happens. I still do it sometimes, and I pay the price because, as a teenager, I'd be doubled over in pain with digestive, issues. And if I don't keep myself in good rhythm, then that will happen again. It's just, really cause and effect. And so I get it. Sometimes life pushes us, I get late with clients, and I'm, eat later than normal, or whatever. We all do it. But my point is, it's not always what we're putting in. It's how we eat and when we eat, and are we in that relaxed state to be able to digest well. So all of these things, they contribute. They all help.
It's all important, isn't it? So not beating ourselves up, but we are going to put some good food.
We are.
Yes, such as ghee. So how does ghee help? It's the butyric acid.
Yeah. So one of the ways that ghee is so good for our gut is that it provides butyric acid. So it's like this butyric acid acts like a natural probiotic in our gut. So
Okay.
it's so high in that already that it helps, if our Clostridium, whatever it's called, butyric, I'm not a scientist.
That long word.
If that's struggling, if our gut biome isn't very balanced, then ghee will help to balance it out and help strengthen that particular strain of good gut flora to work better and build our own, so our body can build our own butyric acid, but a lot of the time it's struggling to do so. So the ghee brings that in, and the butyric acid is so anti-inflammatory that it brings all the good benefits of, well, one, it's, ghee is oily in a good way, so it lubricates, so that helps with the bowel movements and keeping regularity and not letting the bowel dry out, because as soon as the bowel starts drying out, which, through aging, it does dry out over time, but we can mitigate that and soothe that by eating good quality fats, of which ghee is. And we can either have that, in our food cooked, or as added to drinks, or, even off the spoon, and wash it down with some warm water first thing in the morning. And what we put in first thing in the morning goes, through more clearly and doesn't, mix as much with other foods. So it soothes the intestinal lining, helps to heal the intestinal lining. And I think I was saying, I can get off track. But, when it dries out, then that's when things like leaky gut start to happen. And
Okay. And I was just imagining that if it dries out, so elimination is so important because we want things to move through. And I would think if we'd have an overgrowth of anything, our body would be trying to eliminate it. Is that the case?
Yeah, although sometimes, yes, our body is usually trying to eliminate things, but often the overgrowth, disturbs our elimination as well. And
Okay.
sometimes something might start in the large intestine and then grow up into the small intestine, which is where SIBO, comes in, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So it often starts, as far as I understand and have seen, with irritable bowel in that lower large intestine, and then that goes on for a long time, and then it comes up into the small intestine as well. And also things like ulcerative colitis, which is to a degree an autoimmune disorder, but ghee is wonderful for ulcerative colitis, and modern medicine is using ghee for enemas to put it immediately into the site of the colon.
Okay.
Which Ayurveda has been doing for thousands of years as well. So that's pretty amazing that, it can be used in that capacity nowadays as well.
And just to remind everyone that the digestive tract is actually, we're talking about gut health. So you kind of think, when you say gut health, you think the stomach, but you're talking digestion, which goes all the way from the mouth right down to the bowel.
That's it.
Right. So it's really long. So you were just talking about the large bowel and then the smaller intestine, and yeah, so it's, it sort of goes from here all the way down, and that's ghee just slides through. Lovely.
Yeah. Good for that lubrication, good for the healing and reducing of inflammation. The other things, I mentioned, helping good bowel function. And also, when there's enough butyric acid in our gut, it helps to balance the electrolyte versus water balance in our gut as well. So, and of course, if we've got good quality water balance in our gut, then elimination of wastes is also functioning a lot better. So yeah, many ways that ghee can just help, especially through the the butyric acid component of it, that short chain fatty acid. It's just so beneficial for our gut and for helping the good gut flora and digestion in general.
Yeah, so the acid helps with the gut flora, but it also helps with the movement. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if there's what happens when there's inflammation, we think of it like, our digestion are like little tubes, especially, the stomach is more, open, but then small intestine winding back and forth in, these tubes. So whenever there's inflammation, is swelling, and that narrows the aperture of
Yeah.
the tube. So often, to get really graphic here, if the bowel movements get really skinny, like as skinny as a finger, and kind of all coming out, quite quickly and thin, is often a sign of some temporary inflammation in the gut, because it narrows, the space that it can move through, so it changes the shape of it as well. So ghee can, lubricate, heal, and when the gut dries out, that's when things start cracking. And I often think of the analogy of a desert floor. Like when it's been parched and it hasn't rained for so long, the ground cracks. And when the ground cracks, there's separation. And when there's separation, there's lack of flow of all the good stuff, of the nutrients moving from the gut into our bloodstream to nourish our tissues, the lymphatics, the rasa, the blood, the rakta, and so on. And less movement of waste as well, the lack of flow. Yeah. So
Okay, and that's why we've got the shits.
yeah, that's right. That's what Grandma said.
We're constipated and dry, and yeah. So people with gut and gut, I guess, disorders or digestion disorders, are you saying that they can have, either really loose bowels or really dry, like it can show up both ways?
Yeah, so many people with irritable bowel will swing between the two.
Okay.
So there'll be a build-up of constipation for 3, 4, 7 days, and then things will finally move, and it's often quite loose, and then there's been such a big emptying out that it takes a little while for it to build up again. So it swings between the two, and the constipation can be really bloating. The movement when it happens can be have cramps involved, or it disturbs the gut health. And
so I have to ask, Ayurveda is so obsessed with bowel movements, isn't it? I guess because it's a visual way of seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
And someone's probably going, oh, well, I'm sure I'm talking to you here, Ghee Gang, that you're sitting there going, what was my poo like this morning?
What did it look like today?
Right? What did it look like? So what does a healthy bowel motion look like?
Yeah, okay. So the gold standard that we're all striving
the gold standard of poo, love it,
is, well, firstly, it's regular, as in no more than twice a day. Maybe for some people 3 times a day is normal, but usually 1 to 2 times a day at regular intervals, ideally first thing in the morning, like very soon after getting up. Maybe having some warm water helps, just some peristalsis of flushing it through. Well formed, a bit like a ripe banana. So I hope that doesn't put anyone off their bananas. But it holds together, it's soft but firm, it floats and doesn't sink. Now that's something that people often have trouble wrapping their heads around, because we don't want it to be all broken up and frothy and floating on top. That's a different thing. But when it's sinking to the bottom but it's well formed, there's heaviness there. So when there's enough fiber, and interestingly, fiber, both soluble and insoluble, so insoluble from fresh greens, lettuces, kales, all sorts of things, and the soluble from grains and rice and seeds and things like that. Our body needs fiber to for those good gut bacteria to create butyric acid.
So we're feeding it. That's what we're feeding them, because but I'm not harping on this show, but this superhuman show, they were almost saying like we're 99 point something % bacteria.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever we eat, we're actually feeding those bugs. Yeah. We're not feeding us, we're feeding the bugs.
And then when there is enough fiber that's going out, it creates the holding together well as good levels of hydration, and it floats. And so it's when there's lack of fiber or more toxins, because when we're not digesting our food well, it creates poorly digested food particles that come into our stool, our poo, and that makes it heavy and it sinks. So
okay, so we know what a good poo looks like now, and how often we should be doing one. So if that's good, then we're probably on the right track with our gut and our digestion. What other things could be happening, perhaps, if we need to go, oh, okay, perhaps I need to have a look at the health of my gut biome?
Mm. So there's many different signs, and it's a very individual thing, you know.
Okay.
Even when it comes to irritable bowel, no one person has exactly the same symptoms. So everyone is individual. If there's an excess, let's break it down in terms of the doshas of Ayurveda, which is the vata, the wind, the pitta, the fire, and the kapha, the earth, water, to simplify. So when there is an excess of wind, that's an excess of the vata energy. So because the primary sites of these bioenergies, the vata, pitta, kapha, in our body are in the digestive tract. So when the first sign of an imbalance of the vata is in the digestive tract as excess wind. So we get bloated, we get perhaps some pain with that, we get, and then either burping or farting. So that's the sign that there's too much vata. Now, ghee, because vata is dry, and the way to alleviate that excess vata is to add the opposite of the qualities of what vata is, which is cold, light, dry, erratic, mobile. So ghee and some warm water and some warmth with ginger powder, which is also helping release the spasmodic, tension of the smooth muscle of the gut. All of those things, you're adding lubrication to counteract the dryness, warm water to, again, counteract dryness with lubrication and warmth, and something warming like ginger powder, though that, soothes and moves it through. And it rebalances that, wind energy in the gut. So it's not too much, because it's when it becomes too much that we start to see the detrimental effects of that element, that dosha.
Yeah.
If there's too much pitta, we'll get burning sensation, because pitta is fire. So it might be, and I didn't mention that the primary seat of vata is the large intestine, the lower colon, which is where we feel.
So it makes sense you're popping off all the time.
Exactly. That's where the wind accumulates first. And
Yeah.
it can push up, and then it can block the diaphragm, and then we can't breathe well. So it has follow-on effects. The primary side of the pitta, the fire energy, is in the small intestine, so all around the navel. So there can be burning sensation, there can be tenderness, there can be tightness, and there tends to be down the track, either immediately, sometimes it's immediate, but for others it might take a day or two, there'll be loose stool, so things are moving through too fast. To alleviate that, ghee, again, really beneficial, because it is a little bit cooling, soothing, grounding, oily, and it's a very easy fat for the liver and the gut to digest, so it supports that. Moving up to the stomach, that's the primary seat of the kapha, which is the watery aspect of digestion and the body. And too much kapha, we start to feel lack of appetite, even lack of taste and smell, heaviness in the gut, like metabolism slowing down, so we're just not hungry. Now the best thing to do for that is just wait. It's like, don't eat. So most of the time in Ayurveda it's like eat at regular intervals, but of course if we've all gone out for a really long lunch and had a really big meal and just indulged and enjoyed ourselves, do we need dinner? Probably not. Maybe a cup of broth, maybe a cup of hot water and a pinch of ginger powder, again, to help digestion. So sometimes we get into the habit of just eating because it's the time that we eat, but our body doesn't actually need it. So
again, just listening and being intuitive with ourselves.
Yeah.
And calming down. When I asked you that question, I was thinking more like, I don't know, do you get bad breath when you've got poor gut health, or do you get itchy, or like,
well, again, individual
different things?
So when candida, certainly, which tends to be more of a kapha and earth water.
So a lot of people probably wouldn't know what candida is unless they're kind of into gut stuff. What is it?
Yeah, it's an overgrowth of bad bacteria in the gut.
Okay.
Which often creates a very white and heavy coating on the tongue. It creates a lot of bloating and wind and gas and discomfort.
Well, so there you go. There's something. If you stick your tongue out in the mirror in the morning and it's got heavy coating of, is it white?
Yeah, that's more of a sign of candida.
That's some kind of sign that perhaps you need to have a look at your gut biome.
And there definitely, as you mentioned, there can be bad breath. as well. So yeah, it can affect us all in very different
Lots of
ways.
different things. But I guess the takeaway is that having some ghee can support the body to do its thing.
Yes, you
Yeah.
betcha. Mm.
And
It does
see
help
a,
us.
see a health professional.
Yeah,
Don't just
absolutely.
don't
Reach
listen
out
to a Facebook
to your
Live.
favorite.
We're
No,
just talking about
if
it.
you're having
Go see a
pain,
health professional.
yeah. I mean, we want our digestive system to be working well. It really is the foundation of our health. And if we're not removing our waste every day, then it's accumulating in our system. It comes, if it's not moving out, we reabsorb our large
Oh,
intestine.
yes, you'd get bad BO too, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Because it'd be
everybody.
like leaking out of your pores. Oh, I've got this visual now. It's horrible.
But yeah, we want the waste channels of our sweat, our urine, and our, the poo to be freely working well.
Yeah, I guess you could get breakouts and
It'll affect our skin, it'll affect
yeah.
the breath, it'll affect the sweat, it'll affect our brain function. We feel more foggy if we're, carrying around lots of toxins. So many, it comes back to, good digestion, good elimination, good ghee.
Yeah. So everyone should be having a little bit of ghee every day.
Yeah.
We're not talking tablespoons of the stuff. I'd love it if you had tablespoons of the stuff, but that wouldn't be super good for you either.
No, and everyone's different.
Everyone's different, yeah. So just half a teaspoon in the morning is going to help with the gut health though, and help with the biome.
Yep.
And
the
with the elimination, which is
Yep.
all tied in together. That's what I'm taking away from today.
Perfect.
That we need to make sure it's all moving through and give our body a chance to do its thing, support it in doing its
That's
thing.
it. Don't, your body's not your enemy. Let's just work with it, love it, support it. And
Miraculously made, right? The more I get into like talking to different people about what our body's doing and listening to programs and reading books, it's like some kind of like supercomputer, but it's not, because it's really like all this bacteria living, or other people say, oh, we're just all water. And yeah.
But we're amazing. I mean, amazing systems that all communicate together and
communicate with the world as well, and the people around us. And yeah, you can walk into a room and something might not be quite right and your gut drops.
Yeah.
You get that sinking feeling. It's like, well, what's that about?
Yeah.
We are so interconnected.
That's it.
Which is why when I cook my ghee, I am so particular about the intention I put into it. And that's not on some ooky gooky thing. It's about, I don't know the way this total universe that we live in works, but I know that something slapped together and slapped in front of me is so totally different when I eat it compared to something that's sort of made with lots of love. And so that has to come into the way we prepare our food to sit on the supermarket shelf. Like we need to be, or the way our the food's grown out, our broccolis, cut and all of that type of thing, that has to come into it. There has to be an effect on our body. And that's why I just make sure that, pretty much it's only me in the kitchen at the moment. Every now I have a visitor, but I'm like pushing them out the door as well, because that energy of that kitchen is so important, because that ghee is going to go deep. We talked about this another time. It's just going to go so deep into your cells that I want it to be buzzing like with joy and love, and that intention that it's going to do all the good stuff for you.
It has what we call in Ayurveda a sattvic energy. Sattva is a pure, harmonious, balancing, beautiful, loving energy, compared to a rajasic energy, which is really stimulating and kinetic, or a tamasic energy, which is really heavy and dull. So it is so important what you bring into the cooking. That's so beautiful. And your choice of butter, making sure the cows have been treated well.
Absolutely. And they're eating nice grass.
Yeah, that's right. So that comes through, right from the cows, the grass, and into what you bring into this beautiful product.
Yeah. And it's funny, I have had people taste it, especially people that really know what they're talking about when it comes to ghee, and they taste it and go, oh, it's so pure. And I didn't really know what they meant when they said pure to start off with, but it's clean, and it's that energy that they're tasting. So it's like, yeah, it's great.
Beautiful.
It will be lovely to talk to you today. Now, I'm sure I said we'd probably have to do a part B on this one. So we've just sort of gone over the big picture, and because I know people are so interested in it, but we're going to leave it there today. Thank you so much, Jack. And I hope, Ghee Gang, that you've enjoyed this one. If you've got any questions, of course, put them in the comments. And again, I'm not a health professional. Jack is. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner. Just want to give a shout out for your clinic, Jack. Where are you practicing?
I'm practicing in Aldgate at the Aldgate Healing Centre. I'm here in the office seeing clients 3 days a week. I have my online courses as well, Embodied Wisdom, which is an 8-week online course for helping women create naturally balanced hormones through the principles of Ayurveda, and an online group cleanse, which will be happening again in October this year. So spring and autumn.
Oh, and I can't wait for when you do the seasonal thing.
Yeah.
Because I just think that's something that we can really learn as a culture.
Yeah.
You know, and about being more connected. Yeah.
Absolutely. In tune with nature, our nature and the world around us.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And we'll leave it there. See you, Ghee Gang.
See you, everyone. See you next time.